Hello, my name is Carsten Brinkschulte. I'm co-founder and CEO of Dryad Networks. We're focused on ultra-early detection of wildfires. Now, wildfires is a big problem. I guess we've seen this over the news this year quite a lot. Canada first, for example. But what most people don't know is that wildfires are causing 6 to 8 billion tons of CO2 emissions. That's about 20% of all global emissions. And it's about the same amount the entire traffic puts into the air. So we're investing billions into electrification of traffic, and that's a good thing to do. But why don't we take care of those 20%? That's a low-hanging fruit. And that's what we would like to contribute to at Dryad, in particular by talking about and addressing the human-induced wildfires, those that we actually initiate. And it happens to be about 80% of the fire starts, which is arson, reckless behavior, technical faults, accidents. There's also a huge biodiversity impact by wildfires because, of course, the habitat is destroyed and about 3 billion animals lost in those fires each year. So the impact aspect is huge. But of course, we need to have a business model. We need to have a positive business case to actually prevent those fires. And that happens to be a huge potential as well, because the global financial damage caused directly and indirectly by wildfires is more than $140 billion. Actually, it's much greater than that. I recently read that in the US alone, it has been this year about $600 billion of financial damages caused indirectly and directly by wildfires. So we want to help in this context. But how do we do this? And obviously there are many technologies being thrown at it, and it's good that there are. There are satellites looking down from space, geostationary. There are low-orbiting satellites. You'll see another company coming later discussing about that. And these solutions are all great. They're all required, because we need to have all hands on deck preventing fires, including satellites looking down from space, cameras overlooking the larger areas. But what we need and what we would want to contribute is what we call ultra-early detection of wildfires. So our approach with Dryad is to detect fires at the smoldering phase, before there is an open flame, before the fires are spreading into the tree crowns and start to decimate and become a mega fire eventually. So cameras, of course, have the issue that they can't see what's happening under the tree canopy. Satellites have a similar problem, and they're not always at the time when the fire is starting. Now, we embed technology, sensors into the forest to detect fires as early as the smoldering phase. Within a few minutes or hours after someone throws a cigarette on the ground, we want to raise the alarm bells and enable the firefighters to extinguish fires before they spread out of control. So time is really of the essence here. We're doing this with a product that we've built over the last 3 years, and we're commercializing and scaling now, which is called Dryad SilverNet, a network in the forest. We've created a sensor application. It's a solar-powered gas sensor that can actually detect fires by smelling them. Think of it like an electronic nose. You hang this in a tree at about 3 meters high, and it can scan for hydrogen, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds. It's using built-in AI to detect the patterns that you would identify as a smell of a wildfire. And then we send out an alarm, bringing the firefighters exactly to the position where the sensor detects it, so that they can handle the fire quickly. Now, a big problem in the forest is that there is no network, typically. You can't, you know that you're going hiking, there is no mobile reception, right? So we had to create our own network. So we're building, that's why we're called Dryad Networks. We're building telecommunications network in the forest, and then we put applications, in particular as the first application, our fire detection sensor into the network. So we're building the sensors, a solar-powered mesh network infrastructure, and we're building the cloud platform to utilize and monetize the data coming out of that network. These are the 3 components of the Dryad SilverNet system. The mesh is a key thing in what we do, because without the mesh, we wouldn't be able to penetrate large areas into the depths of the forest. So think of it like a multi-hop mesh network that you might have at home for Wi-Fi, only for much larger areas, for thousands of kilometers. And that's what we do with our solar-powered LoRaWAN-based mesh networking infrastructure, which we're trying to protect, of course, with patents, because we're the only company providing anything like this. We're basically digitizing the forest. And then we put applications, and the first application is fire detection, into that digital network in the forest. Now, a question that we're being asked a lot is, of course, how many sensors do you actually need? And we do need a lot. But since we're focusing on the human-induced fires, we're focusing the high-density deployment on the wildland-urban interface where people do silly things, like throwing a cigarette out of a driving truck. And that's why we would place lots of sensors along the road where we want to have a high-performance detection. In areas which are more remote, you can space out the sensors more widely, and you optimize the system deployment costs by having variable distribution. On average, we need about 1 sensor for 5 hectares in the wildland-urban interface. Now that we've placed a network into the forest, we can do so much more with it. We're like the telecom of the forest. And then once we have a network, we can put additional applications such as fuel moisture sensors, soil moisture sensors, chainsaw detection to prevent illegal logging, dendrometers to measure the growth of trees, to calculate the carbon sequestration function of nature-based solutions, enable forest workers to communicate while they are in the forest. All of this is possible, or will be possible, because we create a digital network in the forest for IoT. How do we sell our product and who to? We sell to private forestry, which of course needs to protect the asset, the forest and the trees within. To municipalities, because they need to protect the people living in proximity and the infrastructure, but also to utility companies, in particular power line and railroad companies, which are at risk of creating fires and the liabilities associated with creating fires. We're selling the sensors for less than $100, and it is actually manufactured in Germany. Not everything comes out of China. And we have a 15% annual subscription fee, building an annual revenue, recurring annual revenue for services, telecommunications cost, access to the cloud platform. So we've got the sensors, selling them profitably, and then building an ARR over time. Where are we right now? We started 2020, developed 2.5 years, and this year we started selling. We have 50 paid-for installations, Southern Europe, Greece, Spain, Portugal, Italy, but also United States and Canada, as far as Latin America and Chile. We're selling through resellers. We've got 40 resellers signed up, some small ones, many small ones, but also some big ones like Vodafone in Spain. Stihl and Bosch are reselling our solutions to go to market. So far, we've shipped 15,000 sensors. We're aiming to ship another 10,000 before the end of the year. And next year, our target is to produce and ship 300,000 units. So we're at the point of scaling, actually. 3 key customers, Canada Rail in Canada. They have 1,000 bridges which they want to protect with 400 sensors each eventually to protect the bridges from incoming fires. And that would mean about 400,000 units. CAL FIRE has asked us whether we have manufacturing capacity for 500,000 units, because that's probably what would be required to protect the wildland-urban interface in that state. And PG&E, a power line company in California, has about 10,000 miles of power lines going through forested areas, which would require about 300,000 units to attach to every one of their poles. Financials, we're going to do about, at least that's the plan, and we hope to get there, 2.7 million revenue this year. This is the first year of proper sales in the company, with about 25,000 units. Next year, the plan is 300,000 units, bringing us then to just under 20 million and starting profitability. Management, we have got a team of 42 people, experienced management, brought on board a new CTO and a chief operating officer. We're funded by venture capital, deep tech investor, E-Capital with a Series A last year. We've got strategic investors, Stihl, the chainsaw manufacturer, a chipset manufacturer. Mark Benioff invested money. And now we're raising a Series B. We do that in 2 stages. In a convertible note of 5 million euro that we're offering at a 20% discount to the Series B, which we're aiming to close in the second half of next year. And the last slide, we're an SDG company. We're focusing on impact, but we do that profitably. Our aim is to protect 4 million hectares of forest from burning, and that would save 1.7 billion tons of CO2 emissions. Thank you very much. That was Dryad.